Hey, what's going on, guys? Triple T here, chilling out the house this Sunday night. Just left the bar. The girls are at the bar. Baron Badger. Hello, hello, Baron. I like that name, Baron Badger. Hope you are doing well. I just thought I'd go live a little bit, guys. Wanted to let everybody know we had a really great night last night for the Halloween party. It's really, really good. The girls did well. The bar is making money. We just closed the books on the October, and yeah, it was decent. It was decent. So, I mean, not a whole lot of profit or anything, but the bar is paying for itself and paying some salaries. So, can't complain for our second month. September was our first month, and we did a lot of freebies and giveaways, and of course, we had all the purchase of food and stocking everything. So it's kind of hard to get a good grip on what September did for us, but now that October's in the books, we're good to go. Let's see if I can figure out more about this app. Well, that wasn't cool. Da-da-da-da-da. Can you hear me okay, Baron? Are you still there? You guys hear me? Let's see. We're checking out the settings on this thing. Layout. Okay, I know what that is. Broadcast info settings, camera. Yeah. See, I was thinking I could reverse the field of the camera, but I'm not seeing where I can do that. Frank's Travel and live streaming channel. We can hear you. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it. Robert Mack. Hello, Robert Mack. How are you doing, sir? Anxiously awaiting your return to Southeast Asia. Hello, Frank. Thank you for coming along. Yeah, guys, I just want to go live a little bit from the house. I just got back from the bar. The girls are at the bar, and we close at 10 o'clock tonight. So, yeah, tomorrow is our day off. We're closed on Mondays, so we like to do a family event on Mondays. And tomorrow, we're going to a waterfall called Khao Chamao. It's the only waterfall that I'm aware of here in Rayong province. It's about an hour and a half from our house. So we're going to go check that out, and we will definitely bring you guys along with some video footage of that. Oh, thanks, Frank. We appreciate it, man. Where are you at in the world, Frank? Yeah, we'd love to have you stop by. I tell you what, we've had a lot of great feedback on the atmosphere, the overall environment of our bar. It's been great. It's been great. The party was great. Thank you. Thinking New York Siren 13, maybe something like that. It was great, man. It was a lot of fun. We had a really, really busy road that night because of the Loy Krathong Festival here in Thailand. So it was a lot of really good free advertisement to get the more and more people aware of the new bar in Pala. So that was really, really good. From Ireland, hey, awesome, man. Well, I hope you'll be able to get to Thailand soon. Uh, kind of hate to follow the news, it's so depressing, really. But it appears this nasty little virus is kind of wreaking havoc now that we're hitting cold season in the northern atmospheres. Robert says, I hope for 2021 to return when the Thai government is ready for visitors. Man, I hope they got it all worked out really well next year, Robert. I really do. I know they're trying hard, you know. There's no doubt that it's had a major impact on a lot of areas in Thailand that are so heavily dependent on tourism. You know, we're fortunate here in Rayong that this area's never really been dependent on international tourism to any degree. You know, I mean, there are tourists, obviously. We get a lot of South Koreans down in this area, Scandinavians. So, I mean, we do get a lot of people that maybe are staying up in Pattaya and want to get away from the city and come down and relax here in Ban Chong. So, I mean, there is potential for a lot more customers, obviously, for our bar when things kind of return to normal. But we knew that going in, so we kind of planned on trying to cater to our locals in the area. So that's the only thing I don't like about the StreamYard is I can't spin the camera around. Man, I hate to hear that, Frank. That's what I've been hearing, man, is there increased lockdowns in the UK and France, and Ireland and stuff, and parts of Europe. I hate to hear that. I just don't know. You know what we were told in America early on when this thing really, when everybody kind of started getting the gravity of what was going on, we finally started getting some truth. I think most of the early truth came out of South Korea. You know, you couldn't rely on the data coming out of China, really, you know, for obvious reasons. But nevertheless, when things started getting clear that this was a highly contagious virus, what we were told, the lockdowns were necessary to flatten the curve. So that's what it was all about. You know, we all knew that we're going to get increased number of cases, increased number of hospitalizations. I mean, it was inevitable, right? So the whole idea of the lockdown and the social distancing and no large gatherings and close your business and all that jazz was not to prevent the spread of the virus per se. I mean, you can't stop a virus, right? It was to flatten the curve, flatten the rise of the spread so that the hospitals would not be overwhelmed and we wouldn't exceed the capacity of the hospitals to treat the patients that were seriously struggling with this virus, right? So that's what everybody was told, and I think everybody was kind of on board with that. It made sense, you know. Richard, hey man, enjoyed that live stream. I watched the playback today. I caught the very tail end last night, but great job, man, with Chuck. That was awesome. Greetings, Marilyn. Marilyn, greetings to you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Marilyn, I did get the word that you're interested in having a video vlog about insurance, medical insurance possibilities for someone that is seasoned, a seasoned citizen, you know, over 70, 75 years old. And so I'm trying to do some research on that. I want to talk to people that have firsthand knowledge about it. I definitely don't want to put out information that I don't know, right? So thank you for that, Marilyn, and I will try to do that for you. Tomorrow we are going to Khao Chimao waterfall here in Rayong province. We've never been there. It's I think the only waterfall in our area. So we're going to go check that out and bring you some footage on that. I doubt if I'll be able to do any live stream. It's up in the mountains. I probably won't have much of a signal up there. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to do a little live stream this morning to say thank you to everyone. And I can't read the chat when it's spun around like that. I just wanted to do a simple on the deck here, on the upper deck, live stream for you. Bruce, thank you for coming in, buddy. Yeah, it's evening here, but good morning to you in beautiful Oklahoma. Thanks for coming in, Bruce. Just chilling out at the house, uh, doing a little live stream. But Bruce was just talking, and you might have heard about what I was talking about, the purpose for shutting down the economies. The whole lockdown situation was to flatten the curve. Now, I can't speak for everyone because I know a lot of countries, their hospitals were overcapacitated, and unfortunately, people weren't able to receive treatments because the hospitals were overwhelmed. So that's what we were all kind of okay. Nobody wants to close up a business. Nobody wants to, cause a depression by shutting down an economy. But we get it. We can't have hospitals overwhelmed, right? But luckily in America, we're way beyond that. Uh, Richard's going to smuggle himself back to Thailand, 27-inch suitcase. Hey, what I was thinking about, Richard, is you know maybe a big bass guitar case. Might be better, but whatever works, right? But yeah, Frank's got a good point about Ireland. If we were allowed to travel, I'd have been down at your bar and rent a room down the road and chill a few weeks. So stressful here, man. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about the stress that everybody's been going through. And I think a lot of the stress, anxiety, and depression, revolves around the uncertainty of the future. Oh, nobody can give a date, nobody knows. But I think most of the scientists were predicting that there would be a second wave when the winter season started hitting the northern hemispheres. That's our high season for flu viruses and stuff because people are, indoors a lot, exposed to a lot of cold, and then hot, dry furnace heat, so people are more vulnerable and the viruses spread easier, obviously, indoors without sunlight to help disinfect things. But anyway, there is a rise in cases in the United States, especially in the Midwest, from what I understand. I haven't been following it that closely, but the lockdowns, I mean, somebody needs to explain to me. I mean, none of the hospitals are overwhelmed, right? So we made it through all of that uncertainty about whether or not we could actually provide care for the patients that had pre-existing conditions and comorbidities that were really susceptible to this virus, right? We don't want anybody to die. We want to make sure people get treatment. So everybody was on board with that, right? Everybody's like, hey, this makes sense. We got to make sacrifices and close our businesses down or whatever the government says we have to do because we want to make sure that people can get hospital care, right? Well, we're way beyond that. Fortunately, America never got overwhelmed. Even the hardest hit cities like New York, they had the military brought in naval hospitals. Army Corps of Engineers retrofitted one of the convention centers into major hospital. And, they didn't even really receive that many patients. So, now I think people are questioning, the whole lockdown situation. I mean, you can't stop a virus, right? So if the lockdown is because the hospitals don't have the capacity to treat the people that are seriously at risk, right? Then I think people are like, okay, we got to isolate, we got to do whatever we can to protect the vulnerable. I think everybody's, got a heart and sympathetic. Uh, but, we know a lot more about this contagion than we did early on. And I think, scientists disagree a lot, but I think overwhelmingly the data is that, it's 99.9% not fatal, right? So there's a small percentage of people now it's going to be fatal, and we've advanced in our therapeutics and treatments. So we've got all the equipment we need to protect our healthcare workers and stuff. But I mean, literally, it's almost like the argument against herd immunity. Just kind of, hey, everybody's going to have to get it and build up the antibodies to protect herself. And then hopefully we'll have the vaccine early next year and all that. But lockdowns and shutting down businesses and no large gatherings and all that. I mean, if we're not flattening the curve anymore, and we aren't doing that to protect hospital rooms so that we make sure we have enough facilities, then why are we doing it? Are we doing it to think that we're going to stop the virus? I mean, I just don't think that that's even possible, you know? And I tell you, Bruce, you know, we had plans on a big holiday back in America. My wife was going to be her first trip, and all that got canceled. But I tell you, you know, it was scary, you know, even for us over here. And Thailand did a great job. I think they've had about 59 deaths or something like that overall, and you know, did a really, really good job. But you know, Thai people are back to normal. Thai people are not wearing masks. There's large gatherings of people, you know, mostly outdoors. I mean, there's not big concert or Muay Thai fights or anything like that going on yet. But you know, basically the only time you wear a mask here in Thailand is if you're going into a 7-Eleven, going indoors, a shopping center, grocery store, something like that, right? Might start to drop in the winter months because people will be staying in. You know, it's possible, Bruce. That's just it. It's all a might, you know. It's all a maybe, like nobody knows. Hey, Dar, thanks for coming in. Dar's in the house. Gatlinburg is totally packed because of the fall foliage and also near Cherokee observing the elk. Oh, that's good, man. I mean, people have got to get on with their lives, right? That's what I don't. I mean, I think, look, you know, I'm not a smart man and I'm no doctor or anything, but it totally made sense. We got to lock it down. We got to shut down the economies uh, all over the world because, you know, we don't want to overwhelm the hospitals. But if the hospitals aren't overwhelmed, I think hospitalizations are on the rise because of the, you know, the spread is on the rise. But you know, with the new treatments and all of the equipment and, you know, everybody's got ventilators now. I don't really get it. Let's see. Julius Samurai, teacher, pay respect to countries in Europe with sick people and virus. Hospitals are full and we are so scared with new wave. It's not all about, I want to go to Thailand to meet girls and go the bar. Well, Julius, I am not being disrespectful to Europe. I don't know the hospital capacities of Europe. I don't pretend to know. I wasn't commenting on that. I was speaking about America when it comes to lockdowns. We don't have any hospitals that are overwhelmed in America. So that was my point. We were told that the lockdowns were necessary to flatten the curve, which means we can't do anything about the spread and the rise of the virus, but we can flatten the rate of the spread in the early stages to avoid overwhelming the hospitals. And that's why everybody was kind of on board. Okay, I get it. We got to shut this down. We got to social distance. We got to do all the things. I mean, I don't know anybody that's heartless enough to say, hey, who cares about people that might end up in the hospital with this, right? Of course, everybody was concerned. You know, nobody wants anyone to die from it. But no, I'm sorry to hear about that, Julius. And I didn't know you guys are overwhelmed and hospitals are full again. You know, but hey, I'm not against lockdowns. I'm not saying that I'm against lockdowns. And Julius, you know, it's got a great point that if their hospitals are full again, then, you know, you've got to start flatten that curve, right? You got to kind of slow the spread. So everybody's going to have to kind of shelter in and so that the hospitals aren't overwhelmed. I think everybody gets that part of it. What I was talking about, Julius, was just beyond that. If the hospitals aren't overwhelmed and you have beds available and the therapeutics are advanced and, you know, you can't stop a virus. So unfortunately, uh, you know, it's going to continue to spread until that maybe that herd immunity is going to be the ultimate goal to where enough people are exposed that it's like same as getting a vaccine, right? Your body develops the antibodies to it and therefore you're not susceptible to reinfection. But there's so many unknowns about it, right? Let's see, Chris. Okay, Chris, good point. You know, one of my daughters had COVID. She's a nurse in Oklahoma. She's only 20. 8 years old. So she had very few symptoms. My ex-wife and her husband both have COVID currently, and he's having a hard time with it. I haven't had the updates on him, but I know he had to go to the hospital. See, let's get some wise words from this guy right here. Okay. When I was in the hospital a month ago for knee replacement surgery, the nurse said 99% of the cases are ones with pre-existing conditions. Very sad, and I think that's right. I don't think any scientist or any of the doctors are going to argue with that now, Robert. I think we've learned so much about it that uh, 99% of the people that get it, it's going to be like the flu at the worst or whatever. It's not life threatening at all. But the people that have, diabetes and heart disease, and, I've got a sister that's battling cancer, she's really vulnerable. So, the fear is real, man. I get it. I totally get it. But I think that, we got to protect the people that are the most vulnerable. And at the same time, we can't penalize, all these small businesses and stuff and have all of these restrictions on them. I mean, I don't know the answers, but all I'm saying is if what Julius says, and there's countries in Europe or wherever in the world that their hospitals are overwhelmed and they don't have the capacity, and therefore somebody may be denied treatment, then absolutely lockdowns or shutdown, whatever you want to call it, kind of makes sense, right? But other than that, I mean, just because cases are on the rise, well, we got more and more testing and better testing, right? So of course you're going to have more registered cases, right? That, to me, that's not a reason to lock anything down. Cases are on the rise, right? Even if hospitalizations are on the rise, because the mortality rate is going really, really low in America. The therapeutics and stuff are amazing. I mean, shoot, Trump is like 74 years old, and they gave him the, kind of an experimental therapeutic, that remdesivir or whatever. And he's definitely in the vulnerable, bracket with his age, and he's, a little bit overweight, but he came out great. So, one never knows, but Sweden is doing just fine and actually better than most without ever locking down. That's a good point. I heard that argument today on one of the podcasts that I follow, and they were having that debate. I like to follow the War Room Pandemic with Steve Bannon, and he has a lot of guests, a lot of doctors and scientists from all over the world and stuff come on his podcast, and that's what I heard. Sweden was the one country that it basically just kind of went the herd immunity route, right? Like, look, everybody's going to basically have to get it. I mean, we can't shut down, they didn't shut down nightclubs or hardly anything. AZ's in the house. I'll just bite my lip about this topic. Hey, man, you don't have to, AZ. And to me, it's not political. I don't think anybody should, play politics with a health crisis, right? It's a health crisis, We all have opinions and stuff. I'm just saying that I think everybody is sympathetic. Thank you, Robert. Yes, yes, she's amazing, amazing. And it's not just the fact that she did get COVID, because that didn't really affect her, but she's dealt with losing a lot of patients. She deals with a lot of nursing home patients. It's very sad. Let's see about Marco. He's talking about Europe. They opened their borders this summer and people went around. Plus, they can't implement the tracing and system of China. People here like freedom, and now everyone is protesting. Marco, that's exactly right, man. You know, European democracies, America, Canada, we all have our flaws, but one thing we are not a system of control of the people. People are not going to go for that. I mean, health crisis be damned. I mean, people are just not going to give up their liberties easily, right? They're not going to, we've had, for those of you that don't know how the government works in America, I mean, the president doesn't have the authority to order governors to do stuff, right? Unless it's some kind of a federal law issue, right? So we've got states' rights, and the governors have a lot of power over their states. So it's almost like we got 50 different countries in a way when it comes to the handling of a pandemic. And some governors are still have the strict lockdowns. New York had the strictest lockdowns of all, and they've had the most cases and the most deaths. See, AZ talking about protests. Those who are vulnerable, the rest of us have nothing to worry about, even 80 to 90 years old. AZ, I mean, that seems to be the statistic, 99.9 recovery. When you look at the mortality numbers, over 200,000, was it 200, almost 20,000 now in the States? I don't know. I haven't looked lately, but 220,000 people is a lot of people to die, right? But how many of those people were dying already? It sucks that they got something that kind of, put it over the top, but it's just reality of it. I agree that we have to protect the vulnerable, and I think everybody is sympathetic to that. And I think all of us will make sacrifices, whether it's, hey, Bruce, thanks for coming in, buddy. Have a great day. I think all of us, willing to make sacrifices, I mean, I think people get it. People get it, but now we know so much more than we knew early on with all those early lockdowns. And I can't speak directly about European countries. I'm not for or against any lockdowns, but if their hospitals are overwhelmed, that sucks, and you got to embrace the suck and do what you can to prevent that. Because I think everybody's like, man, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's going to get me. But at the same time, we do have to protect the vulnerable, and we have to make sure that if somebody is critical with this virus, we got to have a room for them. We got to, so everybody, I think, flattening the curve, and even though they didn't have any fear for themselves, maybe they're young and strong and not even concerned, right? But they have enough sympathy for those that are vulnerable, and so they were willing to make the sacrifices. But how long can that go on? How long can you beat people with the stick and say, keep your business closed? I just don't see it as sustainable. I think people are just starting to say, look, government doesn't have the power to stop a virus. We can blame, the president of France. If the cases are going up in France, oh my God, it's his fault. Or in America, it's Trump's fault. Make politics out of it. That's just politics, right? But literally, I mean, nobody can stop a virus. So, and nobody alive today has ever lived through a global pandemic. But like I say, people got opinions on both sides of it. Like AZ said, that's his opinion, and he's got some science to back it up now. So, but at the same time, people are sympathetic. Like, oh shit, are the hospitals being overwhelmed in Europe again? Gosh, that sucks, right? So that's the thing, Just wearing masks has made a big difference of slowing the spread in Chesapeake, Virginia. Virginia has had 79 deaths, most of which are nursing homes. Yeah, Chris, that's so sad, man. I'm totally down with the mask thing, man. Anytime, because there's so many asymptomatic, right? You could have the virus and not know it. So you're wearing the mask to protect the vulnerable. It's all about protecting the vulnerable, right? It doesn't matter if 99.9% of the people are going to get sick and feel better, right? That's really not the point of mask. The masks are about, hey, there's people that have to be out and about doing things, and they are vulnerable. They may not be elderly, but maybe they have terrible diabetes. Thanks, Bruce, right? Or whatever comorbidity that could put them at high risk, and they still have to live their lives too. They have to go to the grocery store, and they have to, right? So I think people are understanding about the mask, but there is that assumed risk on everywhere you go, right? I mean, there's an assumed risk. Marco, Sweden has population of 10 million. They are so spread out, and people are distant anyway. Only London has 9 million people. Imagine. Yeah, Marco, that's right. You can't make apples to apples comparisons to everywhere. Now, Stockholm's a pretty good sized city. I don't know that any of their hospitals are overwhelmed. So, I get it. I get the arguments, pro and con on both sides. More tests make things look worse. Some will have a difficult time. Others breeze through it. Yeah, it's the strangest thing, It's the strangest virus. Some of the scientists, that one doctor out of France that's like world renowned Nobel Peace Prize winner. He's convinced that this is a modified virus. We know that they were doing studies on bat viruses, natural corona bat viruses, right? They were doing studies on that. Doesn't mean they were intentionally trying to create a super bug, but you know, uh, that doctor in France, I forget his name. I love listening to him. He's so, I mean, and he was on top of the first coronavirus, SARS-1. I mean, he's just renowned, and people turn to him. And then this time when he said something that I guess doesn't go along with, with politics, the politics of it. It's not political. He's a doctor, but he was saying that he felt like it was modified and that there was like some consistencies in part of the virus, like the little spikes that grab a hold kind of thing, some consistencies with HIV virus, So who knows? But there's so many unknowns about this whole thing. But, I'm just a very optimistic person that thinks it's going to pass. I mean, I don't think I think if I'm just speaking for the United States, if you took an area like New York or Chicago or LA or Kansas City, or it doesn't even have to be one of the biggest cities. And all of a sudden you had this increased amount of hospitalizations, and the hospital was, really at high level of capacity and getting concerned about whether or not other patients would get the care they needed, then I think that individual local area could make a point. Hey, we got to go back to some more lockdowns. We got to social distance again, right? So I think because that was the goal that we were trying to achieve, is to flatten that curve. Now in America, I mean, you can't just give people up, tell people that, oh, you got to give up your freedoms and shit because the governor says so or the mayor says so. It's like, no, give me why, you know. The sad thing, 650,000 people, women, children, men, elderly die of complications from the flu every year. No one has cared to date. Suddenly we all do. That's a good point, AZ. I mean, it really is. It really, really is. I mean, there are some seriously life-threatening. Alexander, thank you. Coming along. I'm trying to catch up here. The cure is worse than the sickness already, right? Hey, no, AZ, I appreciate you throwing that out there. I mean, to me, it's not a political discussion. People have various opinions about what to do with a health crisis. We're not politicians. We don't give a crap what the campaigns, anybody says, right? To us, and politics has nothing to do with this subject, right? It's all about, common sense and what's best, for everyone. Obviously we can't have a Great Depression over it unless it forces it, When we used to deliver trauma cases to emergency rooms when I was with fire department, the nurses jump into the action even before the doctors. Sometimes nurses are amazing. I agree. Nurses are the best, man. I'm very proud to have a nurse in my family. My daughter's a nurse. Alexander, greetings. Marco, the fact is that at this point, without a vaccine, no country in Asia is going to open to tourists. They look for 0 cases. So just a matter of wait. We can do nothing. That's right. Exactly right, Marco. None of us can do a dang thing about it. That's why I just choose to remain optimistic. I mean, in time, everything passes, right? So it's like, I don't think it's the end of the world. I mean, it's not the Black Plague, man. It's bad and it's sad. Anybody that died from it, I mean, it's terrible. But, do you stop everything? I mean, you just hide out? And I mean, one could argue that all of the social distancing and no large gatherings of stuff that went on for months was flattening the curve, yes, but it was just delaying the inevitable of the spread of the virus. So, you can't stop a virus. I mean, I'm all about wearing masks when you're out there exposed to other people. I get it. When you ask me to put on a mask when I'm in my car or out riding my bike or something, I'm going to tell you you're gone way too far. Your politics is entering the fray. wearing a mask while you're just with the people that you live with, and it doesn't even make any sense unless you're exposing yourself to someone outside of your household, right? And you're worried about, you being asymptomatic and giving it to them, like going into a 7-Eleven or what, that makes sense. None of that other shit makes sense. People criticize me for not wearing a mask in some of my videos and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not exposed to anyone, like, so to me, it's unfortunate that politics has entered a health crisis. I just don't get it. But I mean, it's an election year in America, and some people want to politicize everything. I try. You guys know me. I'm no politics, no religion, right? But this is it's a health crisis. I don't see why we have to bring politics into it. People who are against vaccine, just imagine all the countries will require vaccinations obligatory as a must. Might happen. Who knows? Otherwise, you don't enter the country. That's possible too, Marco. They could want to see a vaccine record before they allow you to board a plane. That's possible. But like none of us knows where this is going. Yeah, nobody wants it. Right, exactly. Especially in a foreign country. Alexander, word has it that a vaccine will be available before the end of the year. Rolling it out will be the problem. Yeah, I know they've got a massive warp speed. I think it's called Operation Warp Speed. They're using the military and the generals and stuff in America, and they've already got the vials and got everything ready to go. Like they've already created the formula, right? So it's already in tubes. It's already ready to distribute. So they're on that, but it's in the final phases of the trials on the the human patients with the placebos and the actual vaccine and all that, right? So they're waiting on that final trial, but they are jumping the gun, Alex, in the United States on distribution. And thank God. I mean, our military, it's what's great. To me, there's so many unifying things that have happened. Like the private sector came together with the federal government, the state governments, the local governments. It's like there was so much great cooperation and coordination. It really, really was. So many great things, so many stories you don't see. Like Robert Mack talking about nurses, all the compassion, working long hours for little pay, and all the volunteer, people donating money to charities and food drop-offs. And I mean, there's so many positive things that were happening and are still happening. You just don't ever hear it on the news. Like it's all about dirty laundry. I miss the news from when I was younger, before the internet era. I mean, not even that long ago, just before the internet. It wasn't about getting clicks, clickbait, right? Sure, there was still dirty laundry, kind of, but it was like, here's the news, like headline news, this happened here. There wasn't really a whole lot of opinion about it. There wasn't the anchorman didn't tell you what to think. It's just like, they go to the reporter, the journalist on the ground and give you the story, right? I miss that. Now it's all like most people get their news online instead of watching a cable feed on a TV, like, or a satellite feed, right? Most people are actually just getting their news online. So you watch news clips from whatever CNN or BBC or Fox or whatever you like to watch, right? You can watch that stuff for free on YouTube, right? So just the clips or whatever. So yeah, I just think that the vaccine, Alex, is going to be voluntary. I don't know about Ireland, but good luck trying to tell an American they have to take a vaccine. It's just not going to happen, man. So I'm all about power to the people and less power to the government. I'm very libertarian, guys, just to let you know. I mean, I think the people know better. The less government interference is what I've always kind of been for. AZ, I mean, there's a ring of truth in your point, man. I mean, it's a known fact in America. What was it, like $3 trillion is the federal government stimulus package, right? And a huge portion of that went to hospitals that were directly impacted by the virus, right? So instead of the hospital having to absorb these costs for care, people insured, not insured, whatever, right? The federal government stepped in and said, hey, we're going to put all this money aside, right? But the key to that, getting those funds to your hospital, is how many COVID admissions did you have? How many people died due to COVID, right? And I mean, there was doctors that came out on the record, guys. These are not political people. These are doctors, emergency room doctors, that said they were being pressured in putting cause of death as COVID. And the doctors that worked in emergency rooms and deal with death all the time, right? They've never been pressured to put anything on a death report other than what they determined was the cause of death, ever. They weren't pressured to say, hey, did they have the flu, or some pharmaceutical company saying, hey, we need you to put this on the cause of death because we're trying to sell this medicament. I mean, there's never been any pressure to do anything like that. Now, when they came out, those doctors were just torn apart, like people just tore them up. And it's like they were just speaking truth as they knew it, what was happening to them, right? So, to me, it's like you shouldn't hide. Like, the best way to make an informed decision is to get every piece of the puzzle right, hear from both sides. So Alexander, for those of you guys that don't know, he's an Irishman as well. So he's in Ireland, and he's anxious to get back to Thailand. But it's great that we have people in all these different countries that can give us perspectives, of what's going on locally in their area. Yeah, yeah. It varies. And guys, I don't want to get anybody argument or anything. And AZ, you keep making your points, man. It's not political to me. There's various opinions, and people are making observations. People are freaking smart. That's why I'm for more power to the people and less central government of any form of government. More power to the people, local. I was on a local school board, right? President of school board. You can't get any closer to the people, right? They come in there and chew your ass if something's happening at the school they don't like, right? That's the best form of government, the closer you get to the people. That's my opinion, right? So when we start talking about, federal government or states, dictating what has to happen, it just depends on the situation on the ground, right? To me, in the local area. So I say, let the local governments take care of things. But the major news channels can be it's so hyperbolic, Chris. I can't watch it, man. Guys, my life is so good in Thailand. And part of the reason is that, I've detached from a lot of that. I mean, I'm a political person. We all are. I taught my daughters, don't you ever think of politicians as bad people. Like, it's still a noble profession, man. Like, there are people that get in it for the right reasons. I know we all we all hate politics, that it's gotten so divisive. It's like this cancel culture. I don't get that, man. I like various people's opinions. Some of my best friends are on the opposite aisle of me. Who gives a shit, right? I don't get why people are saying, "Oh, I can't be friends with you now that I know your politics," or something like. I don't get that, man. That's intolerant, So to me, people giving various opinions, it's not political. I wish every news channel was like, hey, we're going to have a panel on today. We've got somebody from Philly, and we got somebody from wherever, right? Pick different cities, and this is their expertise, and have a discussion about the health crisis, right? The different aspects of why would politics ever need to enter that discussion? Who gives a crap who's president or who's in power in Congress or why does that matter? None of them people have the power to stop a virus. They're not Superman. They can't go reverse the world, right? So I don't blame governments. I mean, I don't. I think nobody's ever lived through something like this, and everybody was doing the best they could with the information they had early on. Of course, there was mistakes made. Hell, we're humankind. We're we're not infallible, right? So, Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, AZ, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, you might get some people a little sensitive when, making that analogy, but, there is a ring of truth in there, guys. I mean, there is a reality that uh, a lot of people that are unfortunately dying with this horrible virus had severe underlying conditions. Like I said, I've got a sister that's battling lung cancer, right? Diagnosed at stage 4, and she's been, getting chemo and all that stuff for months on end now. I'm over a year now. I was in the States. Yeah, when I found out about it last summer. And she's my closest sister. Her and I are 9 months apart. Uh, Same daddy, different mama. But anyway, I mean, I don't think anybody is unsensitive to the vulnerable, right? But at the same time, my sister's got ways of protecting herself. She doesn't have to go to a Kansas City Chiefs game, right? But other people want to go see the Kansas City Chiefs, right? So to me, it's like protect the vulnerable and good luck with trying to tell free people what they can and can't do because there's a health crisis. I mean, now going back to what I said, flattening the curve, it's regional, right? It's a local issue. If you've got a hospital in your area that's overwhelmed and can't take care of patients because the spread is increasing and all of that, then I totally get it. And I think anybody that lived in that area would be like, hey guys, we got to take a step back. We got to go back social distancing. We can't, right? We can't gather, right? I think it makes perfect sense but when you start trying to tell people, we've got to do this when our hospitals aren't overwhelmed, right? The treatments are much better than they were when this thing first started. The therapeutics are almost like cures compared to what we first started. We're really close on vaccines. Like we've got the equipment, we got the gloves, we got the masks, we got the ventilators, we got all the necessities, right? We got everything. But you're going to have to keep your business closed because cases are on the rise. I mean, that just doesn't make a lot of common sense to me. And I don't think it does to most people. I think most people are like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, cases are on the rise. Testing has improved. A lot more people are getting tested. So therefore, there's going to be a lot more. Tell me about the mortality rate. Are we losing more people? Tell me about the hospital near my business that you want me to close. Is that hospital got rooms available? Does it have the medicine, the therapeutics, the staff, the right? So if all of that's okay, you see, you're not asking me to flatten the curve anymore. You're asking me to make this horrible sacrifice, and keep my business shut down and not know what I'm going to be doing to feed my family, right? I mean, these people that have been in business for years, I can relate. I was self-employed all my life. I mean, as an adult, once I got out of the military, I was a self-employed guy. So I know the struggle is real, man. You got to pound the pavement. You got to create the jobs. You got to get the customers right. So these people, that's their lifeblood. And you're going to tell them to shut it all down again. Now, uh, the point that was made earlier about over in Ireland, that, the gentleman said, hey, our hospitals are full, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa, well, there you go. See, to me, that makes perfect sense. You got hospitals that are at full capacity, and you then the business owner is going to be like, shit, man, right down the road from me, the hospitals in my area, the cases are spiking. And even though we've got the equipment, we've got the therapeutics, uh, the hospitals are getting overwhelmed. So, we're going to have to go take a step back. I think it's just most genuine people would make that sacrifice because they don't want anyone to not receive care. But to make people feel guilty about trying to run their business because people are dying, well, people are going to be dying regardless, right? Now, if you tell that business owner, now they're only dying because the hospitals are overwhelmed and the hospitals can't give them treatment, then they're like, oh crap, what can I do to help that, right? But what can that business owner do about the fact that people are dying? He can't do anything. As long as his hospitals can treat everyone that comes there with it, then you're not making a valid point to that business owner to shut his business down. you're going to have to come up with something more. And if free people, and everybody's smart, well, not everybody, but most people are pretty bright, they don't need some filter or some news anchor to tell them what's going on. They see what's going on in their area. They've been to their local hospital. They know people that have died from it. They know people that have had it, right? They're living this shit. Everybody's living it, right? So, it's kind of like I was saying, don't pee down my leg and tell me it's raining. You got to give me legitimate reasons of why I have to do that, right? Right? Look, I don't know what the totals are worldwide anymore. I'm trying to catch up with the chat here a little bit. And I know there's a lot of increases, and they were expecting that, as cold season comes in, just like that's our high flu season. We don't have high flu season in the summer. Okay. So there's a reason for that, right? A lot of people say, oh, you don't catch viruses from the weather when it gets, well, your body gets more vulnerable. You're going in and out of freezing weather into hot furnace weather, right? Your body's more susceptible and people are more enclosed and you don't have as much sunshine, right? And we all know that scientifically it's been proven sunshine kills this crap on the surface rapidly, right? Who ignore the facts. Many even like to believe that this is a hoax. Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't know anyone that thinks it's a hoax. They must be crazy people, right? But I mean, when you say facts, Alex, there's facts that have evolved too, right? I mean, look at what the WHO was putting out early on, the World Health Organization, right? The go-to source. Well, those were supposedly facts, but turns out those facts were wrong. All I'm saying is, in my opinion, and that's all it is, just like everybody's got one, you can't stop a virus. I don't give a crap what you do. You can't stop it. What you can do is slow the spread. Now, we all seen that that's very possible, to flatten the damn curve, to make sure that everybody's able to get treatment for it at the hospitals, right? So the facts on the ground in your area where my daughters live, there's never been a hospital overwhelmed at all. In Oklahoma and Southwest Missouri, never, not even close to any hospital being overwhelmed where they wouldn't be able to take care of a COVID patient. It didn't happen. Never, right? So did a lot of people die? Yeah. My daughter had COVID? Yeah. Did a lot of her patients die as a nurse? Yeah. Is it terrible? Yeah. But who can stop it? Right? And so, I mean, it's obviously, we all have our opinions and everything, but yeah, anybody says it's a hoax, ridiculous. Anybody says it's the same as the flu, it's ridiculous. I mean, we know it's not the same as the flu. It's very, very highly contagious. And there's, like I say, scientists and doctors disagree. Like I say, the renowned doctor from France, you can look him up. He's the one that's on record saying that he's, positive this is an altered virus. This virus has been modified. It is an original coronavirus from a bat, but it's not 100% natural. It's been modified. So, and we know that governments do that all over the world, right? We have biolabs and we study all these diseases, right? To create vaccines and stuff. Doesn't mean it was done, illegitimately, that it was modified for some nefarious reason. But so therefore, it's not like the flu, but the flu is deadly. So, what gets me is like people are not able to leave their politics out of it. And I'm able to do that. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've been living in Thailand for 5 years and I purposely distance myself from those news headlines, right? The doctors put on the death certificate COVID. My friends asked why. Doctor told him he was instructed by higher. Well, William, I mean, I was just talking about that earlier. Now, guys, this is a fact. The United States government, the federal government, meaning the taxpayers, $3 trillion, I believe it was. Now, part of it was, the Paycheck Protection Act, and Americans actually got a check. But a huge portion of it, obviously, was COVID direct related money, right? Relief. So those hospitals that have high mortality rates of COVID are getting money for that patient. Now, William, that's a fact. Okay. So it's just true. I mean, I know, you know, my daughter's a nurse. I know people that work in that industry. I've seen intelligent doctors that are treating patients on the ground, you know, they can tell you that's a fact. It's just a fact. And I mean, we know it's a fact. The money was set aside. The money's already been given, approved, right? Unanimously. Congress and the president signed it. So, you know, is that given an incentive for the hospital to record it, COVID on the death certificate? Absolutely. I mean, it just does. But it doesn't change the fact, even if the numbers are off, either way, you know, obviously the infection numbers are way off. There's a hell of a lot more people that's been affected that's never had a test. You know, you never hear anybody say that on the news. Like, how many people have been infected that were never tested? You know, they were asymptomatic or they had flu-like symptoms. And I tell you, here in Thailand, Thailand people don't go to the doctor. I mean, it's hard to get Thai to go to the doctor. They just don't, you know. And I was kind of always that way in America, you know. I just don't like to go to the doctor. So unless I'm really bad, like I've been in with strep throat and had, you know, appendectomy and, you know, shit you got to go for. But so, I mean, we have no idea the numbers of infection. Don't pay attention to that. I said the only numbers that you can go by is the mortality numbers. And even if those numbers are off, it doesn't mean that we downplay it. It doesn't mean, you know, like AZ and some of the different people that are weighing in on information that we know to be true, right? We know this to be true. It doesn't mean they're saying, oh, that means that this is way overblown. I don't think anybody, it's kind of like, you know what I mean? Why can't we leave the politics out of it, right? It's either hyperbolic, one side or the other, you know, oh, if you don't wear a mask, you're a right-wing racist, or, you know, it just gets so crazy. It's like, it's a health discussion. Why are we talking politics about a health crisis? I don't get it, right? We put all that shit aside and just look at what we know to be true. And there's a hell of a lot we don't know, you know, even the brightest minds in the world, the best doctors in the world. There's a lot we don't know, but obviously they've learned so much. I mean, there's no way you're going to convince me that a lockdown is necessary unless you're telling me the hospital in your area is overwhelmed. That's it. That's where I'm at on it. I am that much of a libertarian, guys. Use government telling the people what they have to do. I don't go for it, man. Now, flattening the curve and hospitals overwhelmed, absolutely. Hey, guys, we got to give up freedoms here because this shit's unknown. We don't know anything about it. They say 9% hospitalization rate. So America's got 340 million people, 9% of those people in the hospital. That's never happened, right? Every hospital in the country would be completely overwhelmed. So that's why everybody was on board with giving up the freedoms, closing the businesses, you know, whatever, right? That's not happening now. Not in the United States of America, it's not. Now, it may be happening in parts of Europe where those hospitals are getting overwhelmed again. Don't get that confused with some political opinion. That's just the truth as I see it. Of course, the cases are on the rise. We all know that. Winter season coming on, people are getting the bug. But I believe the mortality rate in the United States, even among the most vulnerable with the underlying pre-existing conditions, the mortality rate is dropping and dropping and dropping because the treatment is so much better and the therapeutics are so much better. So if the hospitals are not at full capacity and the cases are on the rise, but the death rate's going down, right? Maybe your hospital rates are increasing, but the hospitals aren't full yet, right? So you're still able to treat everyone that's coming in. You can't tell free people, you know, not to go camping with their damn family. Right? I mean, it got ridiculous of what they were telling people they can't do. I think everybody was like, okay, we have to do this because 9% hospitalization rate, 340 million people. That's way more hospital beds than we even have. This is scary shit. Let's close it down. We did that, you know, until we get to a level where those hospitals are overwhelmed again and we have to flatten another curve. Good luck is all I'm saying. Free people all over the world are not going for it, man. It doesn't mean they're deniers, Doesn't mean they don't take it seriously. Doesn't mean they don't have a heart and can't stand it when every person, you know, succumbs to this damn thing because of their other underlying issues, you know. But look at our medical in general, guys. Yeah, Fanong. Right, exactly. That was another thing, you know. Uh, I know a lot of people that had surgery scheduled that they considered, you know, not essential surgeries, right? But they were very essential. I mean, any other time it would have been considered a, you know, a health risk to not have the surgery. But there was a lot of things that went on. But I think everybody looking back on it says, I understand why we had to shut it down. The whole flatten the curve thing was real. We could have peaked like Mount Everest, or we could have rounded that baby off like, you know, the flat top of Mesa, Arizona, right? Just flat top that thing off. It didn't mean that when we start coming back down the other side, that it's not going to come back up again. But you keep, you know, if it doesn't come back up to a degree that you need to flatten it, good luck. Good luck telling free people that you can't open your business, you can't feed your family, you can't go to the park and play catch with your kids. I mean, it got ridiculous. And I just think that people have, I don't see how politics has anything to do with that. That's freedom, guys. I mean, are you for a dad getting arrested for playing catch with his daughter at the park? Are you actually for that? I don't think anyone's for that. I don't care what your politics are. That's a police state. Okay. The father and daughter alone playing catch in a park with nobody there, and the father gets arrested. If you're for that, unfriend me. Okay. That's all I could say. It's not a political issue with me. I'm siding with the freedom and the power to the people every time, unless I agree that the government should enforce some extreme measures because, guys, we got to protect the treatment, the ability to people to get treated. It's not about keeping people from dying. If your hospitals have room, you can't keep people from dying. What you were doing is keeping from going to the peak, flatten it so that your hospitals were able to treat you. You were not denying people treatment. That's why you were closed down, right? There's a lot of hysteria. That's why I can't watch any of the damn news, man. It's just so all sensationalized and it's all politicized during an election year. Oh my God. Let me just say, I don't care. Forget the last name of the president. Forget it. I don't forget the face. When somebody tells me the president of the United States, it's his fault that 220,000 Americans died because of a virus coming out of China, I almost throw up, guys. I get a little sick to my stomach. Okay. Fill in the blank. President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush. I don't give a crap who it is. The president of the United States is at fault. And that's the reason 220,000 Americans died. Guys, to me, it's not even a political statement. The president of the United States, doesn't he represent like a bunch of free people in a democracy, a republic, a representative government? Right? Isn't that who you're talking about? He's responsible for it. It's his fault. Oh, okay. Wow. I didn't know I was, you know, brainwashed by Chinese propaganda today, but here we go. All right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's his fault. He's got some magic ass wand to stop a virus. I mean, nor do I blame the president of France or Canada or anyone else. It's like people turn and blame the government for a health crisis. To me, if there's any blame, it's the fact that we know that domestic travel, plane travel, was halted in mainland China domestically, and yet it was allowed to continue internationally. There, I see fault. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that is a fact that happened. There's actual records. You know, every plane has a tail number, right? For you guys in aviation that know a hell of a lot more about it than me, right? That is a fact that happened. So that means that the government knew that there was a health crisis that they didn't want to spread domestically within the continent of China, but keep that airport open in Wuhan to the rest of the world. That's a fact, right? So to me, it's not a political discussion, is it? Guys, you know me, I'm no politics on this channel. I'm not trying to talk politics. I've not said anything about who I'm for or who I'm against, right? It's not a political issue to me. It's what it is. Well, I agree, Alexander, but I can tell you right now, I can bring up several video clips from scientists and health experts that disagree with each other about the facts. So, and we don't elect scientists and health experts to make decisions, right? The people don't elect them. So they look to the elected official, whether it's their local mayor or city council or governor or president, if it's a federal issue or whatever, right? That's who you look to because they're representing the people, they're elected. The scientists, there's scientists that disagree on every topic in the world. Climate change, this pandemic, they're legitimate, bona fide, highly educated MBAs from all the finest universities around the world disagree about it. So, Alex, I have to respectfully disagree with your point on that. I mean, to me, you can't just say, well, I'm going to do what the science says I have to do. Well, which scientists are we listening to? Which doctor, the emergency room doctors that said on live TV, a local news affiliate in California, that they were pressured to put COVID as a cause of death when it had nothing to do with the death. And then that got banned off of Twitter and every social media. And that story got buried. These were doctors. These were health experts. Worked years and years and years as emergency room doctors, deal with death all the time. And so they come out and said that. So that had to be squashed. So do we listen to them? Right? Because their point was, they weren't full-blown herd immunity about it, but they were like, there's a lot of this that's being politicized. We've never ever been pressured to put anything on a cause of death except what we determined to be the cause of death. So, there's a lot of that kind of crap going on out there. So, we all just have to make our own judgments about it. Of course, we're going to form our own opinions, but it's not an opinion when you're talking about the truth as you know it. The undisputed facts of a situation, but we do have our opinions of what's needed to be done. Now, I have a opinion about masks. I think you should absolutely wear a mask if you currently with the, we still have it. It's not gone away, right? So currently, if you go out into public, you should put on a mask to protect others. Even if you're like, hey, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't give a shit if I get it, right? I agree with that. That's freedom, baby, right? But you're putting on that mask to protect others because we know that a lot of people are asymptomatic. So you could actually have it and be able to spread it to someone who could die, right? So that's just a respectful thing. I don't see the politics in that one either. I just don't see it. But, is there scientific evidence that says if we all wear a mask, nobody's going to catch the virus? No, that's not true. Obviously, it's a preventive measure. It's like washing your hands. It's something you can do to help protect. But there's no guarantee that if everybody wore a mask, the virus would go away. That's kind of, people wear masks in hospitals for a living and come home sick, right? That's happened forever. So, AZ, I'm too old for that. Yeah, right. See, there you go, William, right? Now tell me that's not a political decision. Right. So, like I said, don't pee down my leg and tell me it's raining. Right. You're actually pissing on me and telling me it's raining. Like, people look at some of the decisions that are being made and they're like, how does this have anything to do with the health crisis? That sounds like a political decision, right? And we got governors that are saying you can't go out on a boat with more than 2 people. Well, wait a minute. How is that scientific? I have 10 people that live in my family and we can't go out on my pontoon boat. Like, we're not exposing ourselves to any other people other than the people that we are locked down with, right? So that's not scientific, right? So you have all these people that have, that was their one thing that they love to do in the summer, They have all these huge lakes and pontoon boats and houses right on the lake, summer homes or whatever. And the government said, no, you can't take, and they're going to take people to jail if you go out on a boat with your family. Now, that has nothing to do with spreading the virus, guys. That family could not possibly spread the virus to anyone, even if they had it out there on that boat. And they can't protect themselves from each other because they already live with one another, right? That has nothing to do with science. That has something to do with a decision made by a governor. Said we're going to limit it to 2 people on a boat. Period. That's the law. Well, is that constitutional? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm a libertarian, man. I don't think government has the power to tell people to do that kind of shit. If it doesn't, there's no scientific reason or health purpose for banning a family from going out on their pontoon boat. There's zero. So you can't convince people of something that they know is not true. Well, Chris, you're talking about no politics, and then you bring up politics, you know? I mean, that's just your opinion of the guy, whatever. I have my opinions too, but forget the face, forget the name. Okay, I'm sick of let's blame the president of the United States. Let's blame the president of France. Let's blame the prime minister of Germany. Let's blame, you know, Boris Johnson. Let's blame. It's all our fault. Well, shit, man. Nobody's fault. That's making it political, you know? You disagree with who's in office, that's great. That's why we have the power to go vote, right? And convince others to vote like we do, right? That's freedom, man. But what the hell has it got to do with the health crisis? Right? I'm sick of it, man. Look, I doesn't matter if I vote for the guy or I like the guy. It doesn't even matter, you know? Or I'm completely neutral, right? He's the president of the United States, and people are blaming him for 220,000 Americans dying from a virus that came from China that could have been contained in China if they'd have stopped all the international flights at the same time they stopped all the domestic flights. That's a fact. Every plane's got a tail number. They can't hide their aviation, right? We know what flew where. And it's just a fact. So it's just disgusts me that people, for a political benefit, I get it. People hate Trump and they want to get Trump out. More power to you, man. I'm a libertine. More power to you. That's your opinion, right? Great. But using a health crisis as a political weapon and trying to act like, well, if I'd have been in office, maybe we'd only had 20,000 deaths. I mean, it's just kind of preposterous, isn't it? What government anywhere in the world could do really much of anything about it? They really couldn't. They really couldn't. There wasn't much power to do anything. How did he do it? Yeah, it's called the best doctors in the world and the best medicine in the world. And he's 74 years old, but I've heard many people that are in their 30s say they can't keep up with him. So it's not just about age, Alex. Are you trying to say he didn't have it? You got to be kidding me, man. Alex, seriously? You think all the doctors at Walter Reed are lying now? Woo! Wow. Strange comment, Alex. Very strange. It's great discussion, though, man. I think everybody needs to have it. I think everybody needs to kind of say, hey, this is what I think, right? I like getting this topic out there. To me, it's not a political discussion at all. We've had a couple political comments, but I'm trying to avoid that. I mean, like I said, I've told you I'm a libertarian. It has nothing to do with me, but it makes me sick. I don't give a shit who the president is. You know, why are we blaming our own governments, guys? That's what the communists want you to do. They want you to blame your government. They want you to riot against your country, right? They're succeeding. They're winning. They're tearing you down from within. right? It's a known fact of all the propaganda. The communists are the best in the world at disinformation. Why? Because they're smarter? No, because you can't penetrate their society like they can penetrate yours. That's why they're the best at it. We're the best at disinformation if we want to be, but you can't penetrate. There's a firewall. It's called no freedom. And free countries are easy to penetrate with propaganda. And I guarantee you, the communists, if you're a communist, you can unsubscribe, please. The communists love it when the native people blame their own governments for this health crisis. They love it. They're eating that shit up, man. That's great. That's great. So, I mean, I'm not saying that governments didn't make mistakes, right? I'm not saying everybody did anything, but I'm saying they couldn't have. Nobody even knew what the hell it was. We didn't get the truth about it till way late, right? Robert Mack. Really? Where'd you see that at, Alex? Because the company that's building the new rail line has nothing to do with China. Now, there was two brothers that immigrated to China in like 1903. So they're of Chinese descent, but they're Thai. And they own CP Company here in Thailand. And I'm pretty sure that they got the contract on the new high-speed rail that's connecting the airports. But I know there's a lot of Chinese dollars that are invested in Thailand, no doubt about it. Thailand is like China's tropical getaway, like, New York's going to Florida, right? I mean, there's a lot of Chinese here, but I have nothing against the Chinese people. But the Chinese, what do you mean Chinese purchasing huge parcels of land? I've never heard about that. I didn't think they could own land unless they were Thai. Alex, maybe you need to give us some more info on that. Absolutely. Listen to your doctor. But get a second opinion too, right, Alex? Doctors aren't infallible. They're humans too. I've been to lots of doctors, and I always, always sought out multiple opinions. I think somebody's fucking got Alex's account. Surely that's not Alex putting all that shit on there. Alex, I had to put you in timeout if that's really you. That may be fake, man. Somebody stole his account before. I don't know, but geez, stop it, man. Why are you guys doing all this politics shit? I don't get it. Like, cannot have this discussion without politics. Robert Mack gets it. Chris gets it. Look, see, that's not a political statement at all. Look at that. Somebody tell me how that's politics, what Chris just said. He's talking about the health issues and the various opinions in science and disagreements between doctors on different things that are happening with the health issue. It has nothing to do with politics and who's in office or anybody's freaking campaign or somebody acting too late or something. It's all ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. To me, it's ridiculous. I just politicizing a global pandemic. It just if you're going to play politics, you're going to blame people and use it as a weapon and say, well, if that person hadn't have done that, okay, but no one's ever lived through this. It's been over 100 years since we had one of these ordeals, and this one was hidden by the communists, and nobody knew what it was. And we still haven't been allowed to find out any information about patient zero, right? I mean, come on, guys. If you're going to blame someone, but what does blame have to do with solving anything? Blame doesn't help us get anywhere, right? I mean, I guess I could be pissed at Italy's. Who was running the government in Italy, by God? I want to know right now. I'm not Italian. I love me some Italians, but I want to know who was in charge of the government. Because as far as I'm concerned, every person that died in Italy, it's the Italian government's fault. How you guys liking that one, man? Let's get political. Don't I make a lot of sense? Ain't I being rational? This pandemic that nobody knew was coming, and the fact that Wuhan to Milan is like a major thoroughfare because all of the fashion industry and stuff over there, and all the Chinese investment in Italy, in Milan, and all that. Okay, but I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't give a shit about any of that. Whoever was in charge in Italy, it's your fault. That's right, your fault. Your hospitals weren't ready, and all blah 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 blah. You didn't accent enough, and how does that make any freaking sense to anyone? Okay, now I'm not Italian, but I'll stand with the Italian government that was in power at the time, because who the hell knew what to do, right? And of course, everybody's going to make mistakes. And there was various opinions. We couldn't even trust the WHO statements, right? They tried to hide the fact that it was a pandemic. They wouldn't even call it a pandemic when they knew, right? So, okay, right? Of course, I don't blame Italy's government for any of that. So anybody that watched that, please understand that was just an analogy of how I feel about it. I don't see how politics has anything to do with any of it. Why would we blame other governments for something that came from another source that was hidden, and we still don't have all the facts out of that closed communist society? And I love Chinese people. I love them. I've got a daughter, one of my fifth daughters is what I call her, that I used to work with, right, as an English teacher, and she was teaching Mandarin. Okay, I love Chinese people. And there's so many Chinese people right here in Banchang. Great people. It's not about the people. It's about a communist government system. Anybody remember Tiananmen Square? What's the facts on that one? What's the science say about that one? How many people died in Tiananmen Square? Nobody knows. The world will never be allowed to know. How many Uyghurs are in camps? How many CNN reporters get to question Xi Jinping? Huh? None. So if you're going to blame someone, why wouldn't you start there? And just because, let's just say for a minute that I hate frickin' Trump and I can't wait to vote against that guy, right? Why would I use this to say that's the reason I hate Trump? Because of COVID. Huh? Can you say that one more time? Well, the reason I hate Trump is because, he did a terrible job with COVID. Huh? I mean, I just don't. I'm sorry. Okay. What about, Italy and France and Germany and, India and Brazil and all these other countries that have had Russia? What about all these countries and all their government officials? Are they all terrible too? Should we throw all them out? I mean, give me a legitimate reason why you don't like the guy, and I'll be like, hey, man, I probably agree with you on most of it, right? But why is a health pandemic political? I'm sorry. It's disgusting to me. And that's why I can't watch the news. I can't do it, man. It's just, and I mean, I understand during an election year, not like if, I guess if I was running against the guy, I'd be like, oh, he didn't do this, that, and the other. Holy shit, man. We unified private sector and government and military and sent ships. And I remember when they first offloaded that first cruise ship out there in California, there was Canadians and different, nationalities on there. And I mean, everybody had to be, in suits and shit. And it was just, everybody did everything. Everybody did everything they could possibly do. I mean, what in the hell could have been done? President X, President Z, Prime Minister A, Prime Minister B. Like, what difference does that make? You're trying to say that the hospitals and the nurses and the doctors and everybody wasn't doing everything they could? The government rallied and spent $3 trillion and put ships everywhere and built hospitals and created, vaccine studies faster than ever in history. And we've done all this crap and made ventilators and General Motors and car companies, and like the whole world came together, right? trying to beat this thing. And we should all be united in our blame. If we're going to blame, let's be united in it. Let's be realistic. We know what happened. We know where it came from. We don't know all the details exactly because it's still not released, not a free country. Not like the rest of the world that we're criticizing, all the people that we're hating on in these free countries that made mistakes. They didn't hide from the press. They didn't, do what the communists did. Now, did they? They didn't do anywhere close to that. So I just don't get it. If I lose subscribers tonight over this, oh well. I'm stone cold sober. I'm sober as a judge. But we got on this topic, and I just feel so passionate about the humanity of it, and the humanity is lost when we start blaming government leaders. Oh, if you would have just done that, really? Okay, right. Of course, everyone made mistakes. Everyone made mistakes. But I just keep going back to that once in a lifetime, right? Last time this happened over 100 years ago with this serious of a contagion in a pandemic. I just don't get why we're blaming all the freaking, why so many people are doing exactly what the communists want them to do. And you'll never find me guilty of that. I guarantee you. I know a little bit about history and wars and communism and fascism, like real fascism, not some bullshit. Fascism, right? Ethnic cleansing, right? That kind of shit. I'll stand against that, but I'm not going to stand against all these free countries that did the best they could. Did the best they could. That's the way I look at it. And even now, the people are in control, right? Of these free countries, William, right? So regardless of what the government officials want to do now, lockdown or not lockdown, you better make it sensible to free people. You better make damn sure why. And if it's hospitalization over capacity, I think most people will be like, well, shit, here we go again, because we all have a heart and we want to protect those that would not be able to receive treatment because, everybody's just going about normal life and the disease was spreading too fast. That's what we were told. You can't have your normal life because we've got to flatten the curve. I heard it 10 million times if I heard it once. That's why we shut everything down. Not to stop the spread, to stop the rate of the spread and prevent. So you're not denying people treatment by going about your life normally. Wear your mask when you come into contact with people that might be vulnerable. Don't ever wear your mask around people that you're around all the time that are not vulnerable. Like, don't make the government tell you that you have to wear a mask with your family of 10 at a picnic. It's ridiculous. Stand up for your rights. Right? But I just think it's a great discussion. Without politics, it's a great discussion. And that's why I don't care. I don't care if I lose people over it, then oh well, shit happens. Obviously, I've got my opinion on it, but I'm just like, of course there's division. There's always going to be division, but this whole blame the free countries, blame the victims, blame the people that had this shit imported into their countries with no warning and was hidden and covered up. And in fact, false statements were put out by World Health Organizations that it wasn't even transmittable human to human. Right? Now, these are just true facts. That has nothing to do with politics. That's just the facts of what happened. And then turn those facts into, let's blame all the leaders of the free countries that lost so many people, because look at the great communist society. Don't you know, we beat right off the bat. We didn't hardly lose anybody. Does anybody believe anything from the communist government of China? Anything? I don't. If you do, I don't know where you've been. I'm going to go read some history, the CCP in China has taken the book directly from uh, Lenin, right? The old Iron Fist Soviets communism, right? That's where they got their book. That's the book they're playing by. And, they try to convince the world that their system's better than everybody else, that this control over all the people and no freedom of the people, that's the best system. And I'll die fighting that shit. I'll die fighting for people that can't fight for themselves, for freedom. No way. You're never going to get me to be sympathetic to the communists. Not going to happen. I love the Chinese people. I think Chinese people are the biggest victims of the Communist Party. Tiananmen Square. Yeah, as a young man, I'll never forget it. All those kids were my age. And no telling, God, what's going on during this COVID thing in China. Nobody has any idea other than a few videos that got thrown out on WhatsApp. And we know the doctor, the whistleblower, right? We know all the people that have been missing. I mean, but we don't know. That's the whole point of a communist control system. They are the hierarchy. That's why you can't have religion. Nothing can be above the Communist Party. The CCP is the ruler from heaven, period. There's nothing above them. So if you like that style of government, then unfriend me. Don't follow me. I grew up in an era where communist was an enemy. That was a word that meant enemy. If you were a communist, you were an enemy. And I'm still that way. I've evolved. I mean, I'm a very tolerant person, but communist is still synonymous with enemy. All right. Anyway, I've been rambling. Oh, the thing that they say could be true or not, but are willing to risk your life on something that is new and things we don't know about. If the answer is yes, then don't waste the mask. Stay safe. James, I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, as far as the mask goes, if anybody thinks, well, I think you probably already know that I would go along with mandating mask, forcing people by law to wear masks. Forget it. That's not going to happen. And to me, it has nothing to do with politics. I'm way too much power to the people. That's a no. Now wear a mask in a facility or somewhere, but to say, you can't be out with your family or doing whatever. You're subject to go to jail without a mask on. No. That's way too much power to the government. I don't like it when people go to jail. I like the prison reform and all the stuff that's been going on in America lately, and the investment in the minority areas, community zones, and there's a lot of stuff going on for the positive, I think. That's why I don't follow the news. It's all sensationalized. What I don't want to see is for BKK to become New York City. Yeah, exactly right, Chris. That's the way most of us feel here in Thailand. As much as we'd love people to return, we can't wait for people that want to be in Thailand to return. But we all have that sense of protection. We don't want to see spreads around here. Thailand's done a great job with it, man, for sure. And it's like, the size of Texas. So I look at Texas like almost like if it was an island. I mean, we do have a border with Myanmar, and but there were so many Myanmar people already here when it all went down. So it's almost like pretty much Thailand, Myanmar was the border that's wide open most of the time because of all the workers that come from over there. But it's a lot easier situation to control. I mean, from what I understand, the early stages of this stuff started like in November, December, actually, of 2019, that it wasn't actually the 2020 bug, it was the 2019 bug. And United States has about 40,000 arrivals from Chinese destinations, departures, Chinese departures, about 40,000 per week. That's a hell of a lot of people every week, man. And that went on for a lot of weeks, So And then some of the first cases were in nursing homes, in Seattle. So there, it hit the people that were the most vulnerable and just started spreading. It's just unbelievable. And then New York was late, kind of closing everything down. People cramped on subways, and it's a very dense city, so there's reasons things happen. To me, again, I wouldn't blame the mayor of New York, like or the governor of New York. I mean, they have more power over what happened in New York than what the president does. A lot of people don't get this about the United States, but the president doesn't have the power to order a governor to do something unless the governor is violating some kind of federal law, right? So in a pandemic like that, it's all about, were there some bad decisions made in New York? I'd say so, around the nursing home deal. It's not rocket science. You shouldn't need government to instruct. Couldn't have said it better, Prong. Exactly. Exactly. It doesn't mean that, we're all like narrow-minded and won't listen to lawful instruction that makes sense. If you're telling me that my behavior is risking others, I'm going to listen, but you got to convince me. And I think everybody was convinced without a doubt when we heard 9% hospitalization rate, 9% of 340 million people, huh? Like 3 point something million people, right? Well, we only had like 90,000 hospital beds or something in the United States. So that was the scary, the early days. And that was why most people are like, yep, we got to shut her down and flatten that curve. But nobody ever said we got to do X, Y, Z to stop a virus. Stop a virus? Crazy. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to catch up with the chat. I know I get passionate about it, but to me, I just try to keep the politics out of it. And to me, if you're blaming leaders of free countries for this pandemic, that's political. I don't understand why we have to blame. Why don't we put the blame where it belongs? And that's what I think I did tonight. It belongs with the communist guys. Let's face it. That's just the truth. Most people in all countries are good people. Exactly right, William. It has nothing to do with the people. Anybody thinks that I want to be bigoted or anything like that doesn't know me as a man, because I am not. I am not at all. Yeah, proposed, huh? Well, I've never heard of Chinese citizens being able to purchase land in Thailand. I'd have to see that somewhere. I understand what you're talking about, business investment, of course, and condo purchases and all that, but great, Alex. Right? Yeah, we know Thailand is a lot like the Switzerland, of Asia. It always has been back World War II and everything else. Yeah, they do business with a little bit of everybody, but make no mistake about who Thailand's allied with in the military. It's not the communists. Okay, so let's not overblow the fact that I get people telling me it's going to be Thailand, and I'm like, you have no idea about Thailand if you think it's going to be Thailand. That's not going to happen. Thai people are the ones that are going to determine the future of Thailand. No one else will. Well, RM, I mean that's a political opinion of yours, and I'm not going to say whether I agree or disagree with it. I appreciate it. I mean, what I don't appreciate is all the blame game. That's all I'm saying. And it doesn't have to be somebody I like or somebody I dislike. I don't blame someone I dislike for a pandemic that was allowed to escape by a communist party of secrecy that kills its own people. So, it's hard to get me on your side when it comes to blaming and using a health pandemic in a political way. If you want to give me bona fide policy that you disagree with in politics, right? Not on this channel, but I'm just saying in general in my life, I'll listen to, I'm very tolerant and I'm not argumentative and I'm never going to play this cancel culture. Oh, well, I don't agree with you, so you can't be my friend, or, I block you. No, I'm not that kind of person at all. But I don't know how you use a health crisis as an attack politically like you would those actual policies. Oh, the asshole is, people don't like, he pulled all of our troops out of Syria. Oh, he's talking to Kim Jong-un. I mean, those are legitimate, whatever. Those are policy. That's politics, right? That's, you go by somebody's record, or you don't like his damn ego, or whatever. That's politics. I get all of that. I don't blame anybody on either side, right? I don't think we're more divided than we've ever been. I think it's the same way it's always been. You know, there was a hell of a lot worse politics back in the day. It just didn't have 24/7 coverage. People don't understand half of what, the Kennedys did and Johnson. And I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in our past that's crazy, right? Crazy psycho stuff that would get you thrown out of office today. But today we have a bright spotlight, and all of these leaders that are being blamed, and all this pandemic's being used as a political punch in the face by their opponents, right? All of those people, they've done press conferences and talked to all the media and had all kinds of interviews and had a microscope crammed up their ass, right? And they did it, and it's transparent, and they would never hide a pandemic. If something like this started in a free country, everyone would have known about it right away, right? It would not have been hidden. So you're blaming people that are willing to go out there and take all these questions and really go through the heat of the fire, and they actually made bad decisions that may have cost lives. But it still doesn't mean that this pandemic is their fault, right? So it's used as a political bludgeon, like, oh my God, if you hadn't done X, Y, Z, so many people wouldn't have died. Really? Oh, I didn't know you were Nostradamus in the past. You can look back and go say, yeah, if you'd have done this or the other, we'd only had 201,000. Right? I mean, it's all a guessing game. It's ridiculous. So when people come out and blame the governments for the deaths in their country for a political reason to win an election, that to me, that's disgusting. It's just disgusting. That's my opinion of that. Just use whatever you can as a political weapon. But I mean, it's just disgusting. I think there's going to be amazing trade deals with Thailand. Amazing trade deals with Thailand. Thailand's relationship with the United States, Australia, Canada, and the UK has been pretty secretive in a lot of ways. It's definitely far more intricate than that with the Chinese government. Yeah, exactly, Chris. That's how. And it's not. It's not about any people anywhere. It's a system of government called communism, right? That's what I will fight against, and I will fight for people that can't fight it, right? If I'm put in that situation, that's what I'm going to do. That's my instinct, because that's synonymous with enemy. Has nothing to do with the fantastic, wonderful Chinese people that can't even say the words I just said. If they said the words I just said, their whole family could be in jeopardy, right? That's the truth of the matter. So I can say it, right? I can come out and say, I think communism is the enemy of the free world. It's the last domino, really. I think the terrorism thing is kind of almost like fighting gangs in a way. We kind of got it under control. You're going to have, gangs of groups of crap, but I think we're not going to allow them to have territory and stuff. You're talking about a system of government that has massive amounts of territory and power and economic control and complete control over their people, So there's no freedom of speech. There's no anything that we all take for granted. And I will stand against communism. and I will stand for anyone that at least is willing to go out there and face the press and be transparent, even when they made mistakes. I think Trump made mistakes. I think the governor of New York made mistakes. I think Boris Johnson made mistakes. I think every human made mistakes, right? But they didn't cover something up. They weren't hiding something. They weren't teetering around with stuff in labs that aren't secure. They weren't, they weren't communist system, right? So there are a lot of things like, Winston Churchill said, democracies are the worst form of government in the world, except for all of the rest of them, right? Too political? Of course, there's opinions. Well, it's my channel, and I tried to keep politics out of it, but when other people brought it up, I don't mind giving my opinions. But I tried to keep re-emphasizing the discussion about the pandemic and getting everybody's different comments on it. I think is helpful to all of us. I think all of us need to vent about, the elephant in the room, right? The uncertainty. Nobody knows. Everybody keeps asking Thailand borders, Thailand borders. I'm like, Thailand borders is the same as, Peru's borders. I mean, it's like everybody's borders are pretty much all the same boat, right? Just follow the international news, and when things turn to normal again. But I don't know. There's a lot of fear out there. It's like, the comment made earlier. We don't want a big, massive COVID spread here in Thailand. We, like, people that are here, they don't want things to open up rapidly, right? Well, it's not going to open up rapidly to begin with. That's not going to happen. But I'm just kind of the belief, how many people were infected that were never tested? Like, I think it's already been through Thailand to a large degree, to be honest with you. And I think it's true in a lot of countries that the actual infected people are much, much higher than what the numbers, because the numbers only show the people that have been tested positive as infected. So many, many people don't go to the doctor. And everybody, what they say, the asymptomatic cases are like, damn, is it up to like 60% or even higher now on asymptomatic? So no symptoms at all. So how would you would never go get tested. You're not even sick, right? So it just makes sense that this thing is just going to have to run its course, just like the first SARS. It ran its course. They were all in a big hurry to get a vaccine, all that. They never even developed a vaccine. Why? Because it ran its course and it went away. This one's a lot worse, I guess. But I appreciate everybody chiming in on it, man. I don't care. I mean, Alex, I hope you don't run off just because you think it's too political. Stuck in Florida, good evening. Yeah, we just got on the topic of the health crisis tonight. I've been rambling about that, and people have been commenting and stuff. So, but don't want you to think you came into some over dramatic political conversation. We were just talking about, I think everyone needs to vent a little bit about our feelings of the uncertainty, and we were talking about different things happening in different regions, parts of Europe locking down again and stuff, and if hospitals are getting overcapacitated, then that's understandable that they're going to have to take steps back, that flatten the curve again. And you never want to deny people treatment. That's the thing. That's, if you're going to ask people to close their business or shelter in place or whatever the orders are, right, in a lockdown, it's because people are going to be denied treatment because the hospitals don't have enough room for them. But then the counter argument to that, stuck in Florida, was if you start asking people to not open their businesses and take freedoms away with these lockdown orders, and there is no hospital in the area that's overwhelmed, right, that there's nobody being denied treatment, but you're only putting lockdowns in because cases are spreading or whatever. To me, I think it has to be related to the hospitalizations. And that goes back to, okay, flatten the curve. We got to slow this thing down. But when you start telling people that we're going to have lockdowns, even though we got lots of room in the hospitals, the treatments are way better, all of our equipment's stocked up now, like we're much better, much better shape to treat people than we were back in the original part of this pandemic, right? So now you're going to try to convince people that they have to go back to a lockdown. but you're not in the same dire straits as far as that. So I think anybody would go for the lockdown when they know that there's potential of spike of overwhelmed hospitals and people are going to be denied treatment, then people would immediately go along with giving up freedoms. But short of that, it's hard to. Mr. Mitch in the house. Thank you guys for coming in. We had a little bit of, opinionated, argumented back and forth a little bit in the chat, but I think it's healthy. I think it's just one of those topics. If we keep the politics out of it, which is what I tried to do, I mean, I stated a little bit about standing up for all the free countries and the leaders of free countries. And to me, that's not political. It's just standing up for them as far as the level of blame that's being placed on them over the pandemic. It's being used as a political weapon. To me, that's disgusting. And I don't care if it's being used against somebody I like or somebody I don't like. It's just kind of disgusting that that's the way it's a health crisis is being used, like people's lives are being used as politics. And I just think there's blame. There's blame. And I think, like grandma used to always say, everything will come out in the wash, right? So the truth always comes out in the end, right? And there is blame out there for why we're living this pandemic. There is, but I don't think that we can over criticize the governments that happen to be in control in the free world because they didn't know what they were dealing with early on. And there we go. Double trigger. Sorry about that, guy. And they've never faced anything like it. So I'm not saying that a lot of politicians didn't make mistakes. Of course they did, right? All over the world, everybody made mistakes, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be able to talk about it like just genuinely, like, yeah, I would have preferred that we not send the people into nursing homes, right? Because we knew that they were the most vulnerable people. So why did we send positive tested patients to nursing homes? That's a legitimate question, and there's a lot of legitimate, why didn't we, take action sooner, XYZ, this, what, those are all legitimate questions about it. But the politics to me comes in when we start blaming the loss of life on the leaders of these free countries. And I just kind of, made a bold statement and like I was, okay, I don't know nothing about Italy, but as far as I'm concerned, everybody that died in Italy, it's all the fault of the government that was in power. And I was trying to make this totally irrational example, right? And thank you, Gimbal. And it's ridiculous on its face, is it not, for me to say that? Like, but now I'm sure it's being politicized. I don't know anything about Italy's elections. I don't know anything, right? I'm just saying, as an outsider, I would be the person that would pipe up for the people that were in charge at the time in Italy because they had no idea and had massive amounts of people coming in from the Wuhan district into Milan and the whole fashion industry and all, right, the big connection with the Chinese investors in that area. So of course they wouldn't have known. They didn't know, right? So and I think when Trump banned the Chinese entry into the United States, there was actually a campaign in Milan to hug a Chinese. They made it look like a racial thing. It was xenophobic, and we got to go hug Chinese people. All that kind of stuff. And so there's people that made mistakes that might have spread the disease. We had politicians on both sides that acted like it was going to be a minor deal and don't panic and all that. Nobody knew what the hell it was. But the fact that they made mistakes, I think those mistakes can be used against them politically. Come on. There's the girls. That's what I was going to do, is live stream till they got home and then close it out. Come on, Jake, Blackie, inside. Come on. Inside. 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 Get inside. Good doggies. Okay, baby. But anyway, guys, I didn't mean to get too political tonight. If I lost some subscribers over my comments, then oh well. All I was doing is speaking truth as I know it, and I was trying to keep politics out of it. I didn't blame or come on in favor of anybody, any candidate or anything like that. So I tried to keep politics out of it to that degree. And I just think, for the love of humanity, man, can we just quit the blame game? Like, can we just like realize nobody knew what to do and nobody's perfect and everybody made mistakes and let's move on. But you think about taking people's freedoms away again, if you're going to start doing lockdowns in America again, you better have overcapacitated hospitals. That's all I'm saying. Because free people just are not. No, they're not going to do it again. Not going to do it again. Now they will go by guidelines and they'll wear masks and they'll do whatever that kind. They're not going to be stupid about it. But okay, go 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 go. Anyway, guys, the phone's about to die. Thanks for listening to me tonight, and thanks for joining the chat, and AZ and Alex and Chris and everyone. Chayapum Farang, thank you. I think it was helpful for anybody that participated. I feel better about it. I got pretty passionate about how I felt about it, but I think it's a good topic. I think I've avoided it to a degree because I feel like it seems like it's always political when you bring up the health crisis. But to me, there is a way of keeping politics out of it, I believe, as far as stooping to the level of, let's blame this one and blame that one. This one would have done that and blah, 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 right? What does that have to do with it? It doesn't have anything to do with it, really. I mean, I completely concur with anyone who wants to blame the Communist Party for keeping it a secret and allowing it to escape more rapidly than it ever should have, right? It should have been much better contained, but even then it may have still spread, right? It's so highly contagious, but too bad it's not an open society over there, right? Where we could have scientists on the ground and studied patient zero and really, it's never going to happen. So to me, it's kind of like the political stuff gets a little disgusting because it takes the eye off the ball. Communists have always been a synonym for enemy in my world and remains that way. So they take away people's freedoms and, they jeopardize their own people to keep secrets. And I can't go for that. It's against humanity, communism. It's just against humanity. That's what it is. So as imperfect as all of our free countries' governments are, and we all know they are, everybody acts like we're all divided. I don't think we're as divided as the headline says we are. I think we're much more united and have much more in common. I think everybody loves their children, their families, and just want to do the right things, right? And not everybody. Obviously, there's people don't want to work, don't want to have a family, and they want to go, burn people's businesses down. So, I'm not trying to say, but I'm thinking the majority of people are not divided. And I think you can have a healthy discussion about a health crisis, right? Don't even have to call it a pandemic, just like refer to it as something else and be able to have that with friends on both sides of the aisle that you have political differences with and it not end in a cancel culture, where you're not my friend anymore because I don't like your politics. Well, I thought we were talking about a health crisis. You know what I mean? It's like this is one of those issues that you would think would be above the fray. And unfortunately, nothing's above the fray in politics. And it's a disgusting political year in the United States for sure. But it'll be over soon. And then whatever happens doesn't even matter as far as the health crisis, right? We're all still thinking, nobody's got a magic wand. But anyway, guys, I've been rambling. Peace, love. Thanks for hanging out with me, man. Girls just got home, so I want to get with them. Appreciate you coming along. If you haven't subscribed, you're watching this on the playback, please hit that red subscribe button down below, all right? Triple T, man, right here from the upper deck in Pala Banchang, Rayong, Thailand. Signing out, guys. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate everybody.